All right, we're getting some more people trickle in. So I'll get started. Thanks everyone for joining today. For anyone that's attending this call for the first time, we've been holding this industry-wide call every month with companies that want to contribute to the cultivated meat value chain. And the purpose of these calls is to really offer new and existing cultivated meat stakeholders an opportunity to learn from each other, especially with respect to some of the obstacles and potential solutions that are emerging. So the end goal obviously is to really help to accelerate R&D and commercialization in the sector. So if your group is interested in presenting on a future call, or maybe you are working with a company that could benefit from being on these calls, please do feel free to put them in touch with me directly, and we'd be happy to get them added. A reminder that you're welcome to extend this invitation to colleagues at your company, scientists that are doing work on various aspects of R&D if they'd like to attend. And this email list that we use is also a good way to stay up to date on some of GFI's most important announcements or opportunities to participate in our studies. So before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items from our side. The first is that I wanted to announce that our research grant program is currently live in terms of accepting proposals. In particular, we have a priority area this year focused on cell line development for cultivated meat. So we'll drop that details in the chat there, but these are opportunities for $250,000 of funding for 2-year projects. And it's all focused on making better cell lines for cultivated meat. So could be an opportunity for some of the folks on the call to be interested in. And lastly, our state of the industry and policy reports that we release every year. We typically are starting to get questions about when those are coming out, and they are coming out soon. Next week, I believe, will be the date when all of these are being released together. And so we'll share that with the list once those are out, as we know that they are pretty useful resources for a variety of purposes for folks on this call. So just stay tuned another week or so before those reports are released. And I will turn it over quickly to Maddie from our policy team for another brief update.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to share that a recent report was published by the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotech that includes recommendations for the federal government to fund research into applications for synthetic biology and kind of ag biotech more broadly. So definitely some of the recommendations potentially applicable to cultivated meat. So I'm just going to drop a link to the report in the chat. And if anyone has questions about this, you can always reach out to me, or you can reach out to our policy specialist, Margaret Batting, who is kind of keeping track of the ways that this report might be implemented. And I'll hand it back to you, Elliot.
All right. Thank you, Maddie. So today I'm pleased to welcome Gal Shamri from Prevera, who's going to be sharing some information about how antimicrobial peptides could be a way to prevent and control contamination in cultivated meat manufacturing. We can get to questions in the end, but if you have them, feel free to drop them in the chat throughout. Gal, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Elliot, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share our experience in understanding the issue of microbial contamination within cell growth process and trying to answer that. I will start with a short overview of our company and our region, and then we will dive into what we have learned the need is and how we are trying to solve that. So I will share my presentation. So basically at Prevera, we are in the business of protecting food and providing consumers healthier and safer food. And the antimicrobial solution for cell culture protection came kind of by a request we got from the market. So just before we go to that, a little bit about ourselves. We are a small startup, originated actually by a food company that were looking for alternative solution for preservatives and disinfection, and we joined with the Hebrew University out of Israel, where we got the exclusivity of using patented or antimicrobial technology platform, and out of it, we are actually creating our antimicrobial protein mixtures. So our mission is to enable healthier and safer food by utilizing our food protection protein mixtures designed to remove undesired preservatives and reduce food waste. Our day-to-day activity is actually in the more traditional food area, where we are developing solutions for final food, product like dips, meat, beverages. Typically, the request is to remove undesired preservatives and extend shelf life. And we also engage with companies who are looking for alternatives for the raw product disinfection solutions, might it be poultry or vegetables. And so this is what we do. And the base of all of that is this technology platform we have, where we actually imitate our, the nature weapon against pathogens, which is those antimicrobial short proteins or peptide. We will dive into it later on in the presentation. We basically optimize antimicrobial protein mixtures for purpose. So we have the benefit and the capability of customizing our mixtures to meet different purposes. We found out that those antimicrobial protein mixtures are very good in eradicating the relevant pathogens and spoilage microbes that we have in food industry, whether it be gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria, yeast, mold, etc. Very safe both for us and for the environment, scalable, biodegradable, and even when we eat it, it's fully digestible. It's very short protein, and it's broken back as we digest it, unaffecting our microbiome. So the story that bring me here is actually a request we started to get about 1.5 years ago from different cultivated meat companies, asking for whether we can create a solution to eliminate microbial contamination that might happen in the cell culture process. So, we start by learning what is the problem. And what we learn is that when scaling up, cell culture is exposed to microbial contamination. Of course, the media is a great place for microbes to grow. And when this happens, the potential damage is both reducing the yield and increasing the product cost. Both are a critical element in scaling up cultivated meat. So we start to dig a little bit more, understanding what are the alternatives, and obviously the most significant alternative is antibiotics, that is commonly used in pharma cell culture, where this technology was originated from. But then we learned that using it in cultivated meat production is a big no-no. It raises all concern about residual in the final food and of course, the antibiotic resistance. Then we started to understand why was not handled by existing solution. We learned the issue of selectivity. So else than antibiotics, apparently the current antimicrobial solution lack the required selectivity to eliminate the microbial contamination without harming cell viability and the growth. So with that, we sat with several cultivated meat companies and suppliers for the industry, media suppliers, and we start to dig what is exactly the need that we should answer. And basically it was curved as we want to have alternative solution to antibiotic that can be added to the growth media during the cell culture process. And we need it to be selective. We need to eliminate the contamination without harming the cell viability. And we were giving some specific numbers. What does it mean? It has to be, of course, cost effective. And as we are all in the sustainable business, it has to be sustainable, biodegradable, and to eliminate bacterial resistance. So that was a long list of requirements. And maybe before we jump off how we handle these requirements, I want to mention one more thing, which is what actually are we dealing here with? So short protein or peptides are the same as normal protein. They're simply shorter. So we start, all proteins start with amino acids. If it's a short protein, in the number of sequences and simple chain, we will call it peptide. And as I mentioned before, when we eat those things, typically they've been digested. Of course, the short peptide that we have are all natural and essential amino acids. This is what we use for the building blocks of making our short protein mixtures. And then raise the question, what is antimicrobial short protein or antimicrobial peptide? So there are in nature many types of antimicrobial peptide. They typically attract and incorporate into the micromembrane and simply create either pore, capillary, or damage formation to the membrane, causing leakage and microbial death. So we are not talking about DNA morphation or anything else, but a very simple physical damage to the microbe. Another nice aspect, I would say theoretical aspect of antimicrobial peptides is that as they attack the membrane, there is a potential for selectivity between bacteria, for example, and mammalian cell, because the membrane of these two are different. So there is some theoretical reasoning why you would like to use antimicrobial peptides or antimicrobial short protein to do the job of controlling microbial contamination in cell culture. However, as it appeared to some of these cultivated meat companies, this is not the case when you just take off-the-shelf antimicrobial peptides and try to use them in cell culture environment. Apparently, the commercially available, as we understand from those partners, the commercially available antimicrobial peptides doesn't have the required selectivity, meaning they might kill the microbial contamination or eliminate it, but it will also harm cell viability and the cell growth process. So anyway, we cannot just take something off the shelf. We had to develop it for purpose, as I mentioned before. Typically, the way we do it is we have this technology platform, which is kind of a set of rules that we create for each purpose. And this case, we did it also. So it was about setting what are the rules, what is really required, what is the selectivity level that we are asked to show. We create several different mixtures of antimicrobial peptides, and we start to screen them. And we will, again, we find what we call the lead mixture that had the properties or passed the POC for the properties required, meaning having high efficacy against microbial contamination, but also the capability of not harming cell culture. And then we started to run tests internally in order to optimize it for cell culture application requirements. Basically, we were asked to add it to growth media, different media type, different cell types, and to show that we can keep this selectivity of the mixture activity. The test that we have conducted with several partners had to do with, of course, the basic task, which is kill the microbes. So we were giving a list of indicator microbes and the level of contamination that we need to handle. The second test, of course, is to do that without harming the cell viability. And the third task was to show that it has the potential of eliminating bacterial resistance, meaning that even after using that and after it's being in the media, bacteria could not create resistance to our solution. So this is basically the process, the internal process and the external process we did with partners. So there were several tests, and for the sake of time, I will share with you two tests that we have done. First one was with a cultivated meat company. It was a POC. So basically, they said we have two indicator microbes to check, and please make sure that for 3 days you kill them without harming the cell viability for at least 85%. So cell viability should remain at 85%. In that case, the indicator bacteria was Salmonella and E. coli, and we were tested against the control, which is the same media with pen strip and with other solution that was a reference. And as you can see here, the pattern, and again, this, I mean, you can assume that we managed to kill the Salmonella and E. coli, and with the same concentration of our protein, we had also to show the viability of the cells after 3 days. You could see kind of a typical viability form that happened even with the pen strip. Obviously, cells get used to the pen strip and continue to grow after the 3 days. Actually, in this case, the test itself was for 5 days, and you can see that after 5 days, we reached the level of viability, which is about 90%, meaning the POC passed successfully. Second test we did was with a cell culture ingredient company. Again, 2 microbes. This time it was for 7 days. And again, the task was to reach high viability of the cells. The task was to meet 90%. Over here, we were tested against the control, which is the same media with cells. Again, a different type of cells in this time, but with pen strip as a control test. Over here, you could see a very nice phenomena where with our solution, it actually moved to over 100% if you take the pen strip as the reference. So after 7 days, we of course kill all the bacteria and let the cells continue to grow and to show high viability. This is basically two of the different tests we did. We also did the bacteria resistant test, taking the pen strip and actually doing it against pen strip, against penicillin alone. And in all cases, our solution showed that bacteria do not develop resistance, where during the test, it did develop resistance when it was tested against the pen strip and the penicillin. So basically, this is kind of in a few minutes, the type of test we did that show that this solution has indeed the potential to become an antimicrobial, non-antibiotic solution for cell culture in high scale. Working with partners, we of course look at the economic side. The solution itself is very, very affordable. I cannot get right now or right here into the details, but we are talking about a very, very low cost per 1 kilogram of meat that taking all the media that will be required. So it's very cost effective, and the value proposition of such a solution in high scale is, of course, increasing production yield, reducing the overall product cost, eliminating the microbial contamination, and of course, taking antibiotics out of the equation in that case. We still have a lot to test and to do, especially when companies are scaling up. But I really wanted to share that with you, and I'll be open to any questions, any thoughts on that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you again for coming to present here. Hopefully some folks will reach out to you and get to running some more trials in different settings with different cells and different processes. I think personally this is a really promising solution to a problem that may become significant in the future as these companies do start to scale up. So
Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to answer and to talk with anyone who wanted. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you here next month. Take care.